Welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to have a look at Endgame number 38 from the book 100 Endgames You Must Know by Jesus de la Villa. This is a must-read book for all club chess players, and I'll leave a link in the description in case you want to purchase the book for yourself. In this endgame, we're going to have a look at a knight and pawn versus a bishop, but the pawn is actually a rook pawn. Now, if the pawn is a rook pawn in these kind of circumstances, then the winning chances are very high. The main reason is, as we saw in the early example, if it's a central pawn, and for example, if the pawn is here, the defending diagonal is quite long. But in these kind of scenarios, the defending diagonal, for example, in this case, is just one diagonal, and there is, especially if the pawn comes to h2, there is no other diagonal this way. So it's very hard to defend by just having the bishop. You definitely need the king for these kinds of endgames. So this is actually, we are going to have a look at two endgames. The first one is a study by Sam Lloyd in 1860. So this endgame, how can white draw this endgame? White first has to play bishop d7, forcing this pawn to move forward. And after the pawn moves forward, bishop c6 check. The whole idea is, and in these kinds of endgames, we always have to understand that the knight can always block the diagonal, and this is the biggest threat in these kinds of endgame. So to avoid this threat, bishop c6 is played, and after king moves, bishop h1. Now, if the king takes the bishop, then king f2, knight c3, and as we can see, there's absolutely nothing knight can do to prevent a draw. So going back to this position here, what happens if instead of king takes the bishop, what if knight g2 check? Then king simply moves, and after knight f4, king simply moves to king e1, and this is a drawish endgame. And also, as we know, if the bishop is taken, then king moves to f1, and the knight cannot actually defend these two squares, the f1 and the f2 squares together. This second position is actual game played between Stein and Dorfman in 1970. Here it's black to move, so black plays knight d3. Now, and the obvious threat is knight b2, so bishop has to move to a1 and knight f2. So in this kinds of position, we have to understand we should not rush to go and take this bishop. Because if we do rush, as seen in the previous example, the white king is able to come and gain opposition. So there is a way. So after king e1, knight a4, king e2, and as you can see, black is losing a move here, and knight c5 is played, king e2, and here knight king b1. And after king d1 taking the opposition, knight is going to d3, and when the king moves to d2, knight goes to b1, and now the bishop is actually trapped. I also want to show in this situation, if the bishop had moved in any part of the diagonal except for a1, then knight b2 is a threat, so the bishop cannot move. The only move was king d2, knight b2, king c3. Now we cannot leave the knight there at b2 because the bishop is going to take it. So the king here takes on a1. After king c2, here the clever move is knight d3. As in the previous example, now the king does not have the opposition, and this is actually a winning endgame. There's no way. So if there's no way white can come to c1 or defend the other important squares. If the king takes a knight, then as we know, it simply needs to move the king away and then promote this pawn to queen. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and it's bye for now.